So hello everyone. So tonight we have a very special guest. We have the CEO of Kenzie Academy with us, and the reason we asked Chok to come to speak to all of you is over the last few months we've had a large number of students who were looking to get jobs in tech, learn how to code, and become engineers. They came across Kenzie. They found out about their program, and now they're actually enrolled and they're attending. And so, since we have such a large number of people who did pick Kenzie, we decided to invite Chok, the CEO, to actually come to you and give you this opportunity to ask him any question that you want. Okay, and so we're gonna open up for questions in about 10 minutes. But first, I want to say hi, Chok.
Hey, thanks
Thanks,
for having
thanks
me.
for joining. Thanks for joining. And for people who didn't, for people who might be just tuning in and they don't know who Chok is basically someone who started a company before called Agility, and he grew the company, and the company is making money. And then a few years ago, he was thinking about how do you make an impact, and so he started Kenzie Academy, and he will tell you a little bit more about Kenzie Academy. But I think what's interesting about Chok is, like me, he's also an immigrant. So I'm gonna ask him a few questions about his backstory in a second. But he didn't have it easy. He overcame a ton of challenges, and now he's in a position where he's able to not just help people, but he's helping them achieve a better version of themselves, reach financial freedom, and being able to provide for themselves and their families. So on that note, I want to say welcome, Chok.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, Chok. And so let's open up by maybe sharing a few things about Kenzie Academy. If someone just joined this week and they never heard about coding boot camps, can you explain what's different about Kenzie than a traditional school, and why do people choose Kenzie when they're looking to break into tech?
Yeah. First of all, I want to start by saying, for you guys are here, give yourself a big pat in the back. There are tens of thousands of people just like yourself that says, I hate my job, I hate my current condition, I'm stuck, I'm not making enough to provide for my family, there is no future in what I'm currently doing. And then they sit in the couch and they watch TV and they do nothing about it. So for you guys to be on this call, to be doing the 21-day challenge, you have already gone past, tens of thousands of all these other people who complain and blame everyone else for things except taking the initiative themselves. So it's definitely very very admirable for this. So kudos. So yeah, is there a question? Yeah.
No, I think it was someone's mic who wasn't on mute. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think as Timur mentioned, I ran a pretty profitable company before this for the last 9 years, where essentially I was outsourcing tech jobs. We were trying to solve Silicon Valley's talent shortage, and our solution was we went to Southeast Asia, to a country like Vietnam, to hire raw talent and then train them up, and then get them placed on tech projects with US companies. So I grew that company to 250 people today, and the company today works with Google, with Uber, Major League Baseball. If you guys walk past a Bose store and see those fancy sunglasses with audio on, we actually built the software for that. If you guys ever look for credit cards on NerdWallet, we built that. If you guys go to kind of a Starbucks, they call it what, the Starbucks Reserve Coffee website, we built that behind the scenes. So we had no investors in the company, so we share the profits with our employees, with our team. And I was about to just stop working and spend more time with my kids until 2016, where we saw that there are parts of the country that were doing very well, and the rest of the parts of the country was just screaming out for help. Where a lot of jobs are being automated away, and it's starting to happen not just to manufacturing jobs, but it's going to impact service economy jobs, where a lot of our students are. If you work as a barista, if you work at McDonald's, if you work at a counter somewhere, and if your work involves the same movement every single day, that job will be gone over the next few years. So me and my co-founders wanted to use we have, which is our expertise and our access to hiring managers, and create a model to be able to retrain many people into new economy, higher paying jobs. And what we see is that there are a lot of boot camps. Before Kenzie, there are already hundreds of boot camps around the country. And when I say boot camps, these are typically 3-month programs. And the honest truth is, for people like myself and many others who had a college degree in engineering, or went to a good school and you've a lot of work experience, we can probably do a 3-month boot camp and be very successful. But for a lot of other people, if you've never done college, or if you drop out of college, if you've never been in kind of a tech professional environment, it is very hard for you to do 3 months and go on to have enough to be able to get employed and also stay employed. So with Kenzie, that's the reason why we are a 12-month program. I like to say that we're not a boot camp stretch over 12 months. We are a 4-year computer science program compressed in 12 months. So what we're trying to do is give you not everything, but as much as what someone who graduated from with a computer science degree and go on to work at Netflix, Google, Apple, almost the same level of training, minus some general ed and some theoretical stuff, so that you are better prepared for the workplace, so that when you get the job, you're confident and you know exactly what you're doing, versus just 3 months and you're barely even touching the surface, and then you get overwhelmed in your first job. And that's where Kenzie is very different from many of the other boot camps.
Nice, Chok, and that's a great description. In terms of, can you share? So you shared a little bit about the duration of the course. So it's 12 months. Can you share with people about a little bit about the tuition payment options? Because there's a lot of people who think, yeah.
So I'll talk about that, but there's one more thing I wanted to add. What's interesting is we have a lot of Kenzie students who went to a 3-month boot camp and realized that they couldn't get a job. They just didn't learn enough. And after a 12-month Kenzie, they're starting to get jobs, and now they're more confident than where they were before. Unfortunately, I also get messages from a lot of people who went to other boot camps halfway and said, "Can I come to Kenzie?" And I said, "Well, if you have an ISA, you're gonna, if you take 2 ISAs, it's just gonna put you in such a deep hole that even if you get a good job, you're not gonna be able to, repay and then be able to support yourself." So to the question of repayment, just like many of the newer boot camps, we do offer income share agreements. So our tuition is $24,000. But if you compare programs, if you stretch, take 24,000 divided by number of 12 months, we're actually one of the cheapest programs in the market. There are programs that are 3 months that are charging like up to $16,000, $17,000. So for $24,000 for 12 months, it's actually probably one of the cheapest programs out there. We have students who would either pay for tuition up front, students who would do a monthly payment plan, so they do payments over 12 months. But majority of our students attend Kenzie through an income share agreement or an ISA. For those of you who are high level, if you're still not familiar with ISAs, it's basically our students pay $100 down. We call that a commitment fee, because we noticed we actually did a study, and students who didn't pay a commitment fee didn't take Kenzie seriously and drop out very quickly. Whereas people who have a $100 commitment fee tend to be more serious and actually commit to finishing the program. And then if you graduate Kenzie and make more than $40,000 a year, you pay 13% of your income for 48 months or 4 years, and then you're done. So essentially what we're doing is the school is investing in you. So we're actually borrowing money from investors. We're using our credit to borrow money on your behalf to fund your Kenzie education. If you drop out, we have to return the money to the investor. We pay a penalty. But if you don't get a job making more than $40,000 a year over a period of time, we take all the loss and we pay all that back to the investors plus penalty. But on the flip side, if you're successful, you will then pay 13% of your income for 4 years. So that we call it a paid for model. So that allows you to kind of pay back so that we can continue to run a sustainable program and offer the Kenzie opportunities to people after you. There's also a cap. So our cap is actually 1.75 times of the tuition, which is 24,000. So if you're doing very well and making six-figure salaries, then the maximum you'll ever pay back is just under $42,000.
Chuck, awesome. I was just typing and sharing with people about GoFundMe. But that's a great description. And so I think just to emphasize to people, I think back a few years ago, if you wanted to do this type of career transition, you literally had to have enough in savings to pay for the bootcamp upfront. And today there's a number of schools, including Kenzie, who are investing in you. But what's interesting is that this new payment model also incentivizes the school not just to help you graduate, but to help you get a job, right? And that's a big difference, because with traditional schools, you get a degree, and some degrees are great, some are not, but the school gets paid as soon as you graduate because you pay them up front. With Kenzie, they wait 12 months to teach you, and at month 6, you only paid them $100. At month 8, you only pay them $100. At month 12, you only pay them $100, that initial fee. And even once you graduate, if they don't help you get a job, then they still don't have to, you don't have to pay them back. And so what it does is it does force Kenzie to then think about what happens after our students graduate, and who are the companies that are going to hire them, right? And what are the things that companies look for? So Chok, in the beginning, you mentioned that through your previous company, you got this exposure to different companies who need talent. Can you talk about the companies that Kenzie graduates go on to work at after graduation?
Yeah. So since we came from New York and Silicon Valley, we have a lot of deep-rooted connections in companies on the coast. But what we really care about is people who come from other parts of the country. We don't want people to have to move to California or New York just to be able to get a job and be successful. So we are working on building partnerships with companies around the Midwest, the South, and the other communities. I cannot guarantee that we'll have employer partners in everywhere that everyone lives, but we are working towards building that. But hopefully we can build enough partnerships where there are jobs close enough and not far from where you guys are in, that hopefully you can stay near or at your community and never have to move to California. Even though you get a high-paying six-figure job, you live in a shoebox, and majority of your salary goes towards paying rent. You can live in places like Indiana, Ohio, Alabama, have a pretty decent job and actually have a very good quality of life. I also want to address the tuition. The reason we put the $100 commitment fee is, like, we're borrowing money and investing $24,000 in you upfront. We're taking all the risk. So we want to see that you are also equally doing your part to invest in yourself. And I understand $100 is actually a lot of money for many people, especially those who are unemployed. We want to see how resourceful you are to go figure out whether it's GoFundMe, sign a commitment letter with your family, or say, I will pay you back this $100 when I'm successful, or be resourceful, because if you're not willing to find a way to, invest in yourself to come up with just $1 million in a laptop, why are we risking $24,000 of our money, borrowed money on your behalf? So that's the way we see it, is that we want to bring in people who are really committed enough that you can find a way to put together $100 and a laptop, the right laptop to support yourself through the program. We're taking a much bigger risk in you than you're taking risk at this point on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's also important to emphasize, that the student is investing their time, the school is taking a risk on you financially. At the end of the day, the incentives are aligned, and so those are the types of places you want to deal with, where both your incentive and the school's incentives align. There were a few people in the chat who asked about the structure of Kenzie. What are the hours? What is the schedule? And can you also mention a little bit about the Earn and Learn program that you rolled out?
Yeah. So one thing we are very conscious of, because if you guys have heard the podcast we did, like I was earning below the poverty line when I had my first kid, so I understand how hard life is, and we designed Kenzie around people to still work and earn an income. So even though we say it's a full-time program, it's full-time with part of the hours. There's some flexibility at the end part of the hours. So we do require people to commit to be able to dedicate 40 hours a week to the program. But you attend classes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we have an Earn and Learn program, and also a lot of our students work. So from 3 p.m. Eastern onwards, many of our students will go work, or they will do the Apple Care job. That's designed around the Kenzie class schedule, or we have a lot of parents out there that will go back and pick up their kids from school and things like that. And then in the evenings, once they put their kids to sleep or after you're done working, then you make up the 4 hours in like take home assignments or things that you didn't finish, so that you are prepared for the next day. So it is intensive. It is not a part-time program, but there's enough flexibility in there, because you have to be you cannot be taking a shift or working during 9 to 3 Eastern. But if you have a job that allows you to work in late afternoon and the evenings or the weekends, then you can definitely find a way to make the Kenzie schedule work for you. There are people who ask about part-time. So the honest answer is the investors we work with do not want to fund part-time programs, and therefore without the money, we can't afford to support that at the moment. Because we also see that people who work a lot and also have a lot happening in their lives, they could not stay focused on Kenzie, and usually those are the people with the highest chance of dropping out from the program. So with the ISA, if we have a part-time program where people are not fully committed and we have like a 60% dropout, that essentially will bankrupt the school.
Yeah. And I think this is a good segue too. I know our chat is blowing up right now with so many people asking questions. We have 60 people on the call. Chok, I'm going to open this conversation up to our community. I do want to tell the folks that we did a podcast interview. Can people hear me, by the way? I'm hearing some background noise. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can folks hear me? Okay. So we did a podcast.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Perfect. We did a podcast episode with Chok, and so I would recommend checking out the episode, because we go into more detail about his personal background, how he came to the States, how he slept on the floor to go through school, and it's very interesting. But I want to open it up for you to ask Chok any questions. And so if you do have a question, what I would ask you to do is just introduce yourself. If maybe share like a 30-second overview of like where you are in terms of transitioning, like where do you live, like a little bit about yourself, and then you can ask Chok any question you want.
I'll start. I always seem to start.
I know
Chok.
you.
I know you too. My name's Diarte. I've been a part of Career Karma since June. I actually just left my full-time job of 5 years, working in background screenings as of last month, and have been working within the CK community since then. And I start this October on the 22nd with Kenzie. My question is, because I do know that they have the optional apprenticeship program that you can do while you're at Kenzie. Can you touch a little bit more on that and give a little bit more details on that?
Yeah, so the 12-month program for people who needs more time to get job ready. We have an unpaid apprenticeship where you're working on mock consulting projects, and you move from learning from an instructor to reporting to an engineering manager. So we simulate real work environment and allow you to pick up on more experience. So the way students who are on the apprenticeship will they're essentially working on, like real world projects, but they're all mock. They're past projects that were done. But at the same time, the engineering manager would look at where your shortcomings are and actually work on you so that you become better prepared. So people who are on the apprenticeship usually spends about 2 days working with our talent success team, where they will prep you for interviews. They work on your resume, and you get feedback from our mentors. You do mock interviews with them, and then the rest of the time you're working on projects to build up your profile. I saw Maya, one of our students, did an AMA before. She said that her instructor Justine did like a few mock interviews with them. What she didn't mention, Justine was actually a UX engineer at Google, so she was actually doing mock interviews with a Google engineer, and that really helped her really impress the employers when she did a real interview.
Okay, thank you. And
Cool.
I just wanted to add a quick caveat and everything. I just wanted to add a quick side note. No, I just wanted to say that, out of all the boot camps and everything, and there's thousands of boot camps out there, I would have to say that, Kenzie is one of the very elite few that has been very transparent, very open, and very interactive with the CK community. So I think I speak on behalf of everybody at CK when I say thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you. Means a lot.
Thanks, Diarte. Cool. Let's see. Anyone else wants to jump in?
I have a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Tag, you're right. I am Jordan. I actually joined Career Karma a few days ago, and prior to that, I had not heard of Kenzie. And I discovered them as part of going through the 21-day challenge. And 2 days ago, I decided to just go ahead and apply. And this morning, I got accepted to start on the 22nd. So I'm really excited. And my question for you, Chok, I also, like Diarte, just quit my day job. So I don't have a choice but to succeed. So my question for you, Chok, is how does Kenzie's program stay ahead of the curve and stay relevant? I know that a lot of brick and mortar schools, some of the issues that I faced when I was in school was that it seemed like we were learning things too slowly, like technology was changing as we were learning. So how does Kenzie stay relevant and stay ahead of that while students are actually in the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was our frustration with traditional higher education. You learn from these professors, and many of them are researchers, and many of them, like teaching is like something they were forced to do. That was how I felt when I was in school. It's for me, if they were telling me that, they gave me the feeling that it's an honor for me to learn from them, and they're doing this as I'm an irritant to them, where from their kind of main role of research and all. With Kenzie, we do not hire any faculty. All our instructors are industry practitioners. So we have full-time instructors as well as part-time instructors who are still working in industry. So as I was mentioning earlier, like on the UX program, we have ex-LinkedIn, ex-Microsoft, Google, UX engineers who are teaching our program. We were all hiring managers, so we knew what we were looking for. We knew how frustrated we were interviewing, hundreds of people coming out from some even prominent universities, but like they don't understand what Git is. They don't, it's all theory, and they couldn't even solve, some very basic engineering problems. But they can tell you everything about certain theory. Which is great for a discussion, but not very useful in a real life situation. So Kenzie's program is actually very hands-on. It's project-based learning and flipped classroom. What that means is that you only get like an hour or less of actual lecture-style demo in the morning, but the rest of the day you're actually hands-on building things, and you learn by building. And you're gonna hit a brick wall, and you're gonna get frustrated. And then you're going to go to the instructor or facilitators, and then they don't give you the actual answer, but they will give you breadcrumbs. It's like, have you thought about this? Have you tried that? Have you? So what we're essentially doing is imitating real world, when you're working as an engineer in Google, if you don't have the answer, your manager's not going to give you an answer. He's like, go figure it out. So what we're actually teaching you is learning how to learn and learning how to find answers, that is a lot more valuable than, spending 3 months in the boot camp teaching how to code, learning how to code JavaScript or React or Python or whatever it is. Because we're in a field where you have a new iPhone every single year. Things are changing so quickly. So if all we do is teach you how to memorize code in a certain language, you're going to be outdated in 2-3 years. And then and so what is more important is for you to learn how to learn how to go find answers, but also at the same time learn how to solve problems, because companies don't hire you to code in Python. Companies are hiring you to solve problems, because if all you do is code, there are millions of developers in India that can easily do what you do, and they're taking a third or a quarter less than what you're making. So why does the company hire you in the US when they can hire people in India? So developers or engineers or technologists in the US, you need to add more value than all these overseas developers. And the way you add value is in your ability to solve problems, and ability to communicate, and ability to essentially work in very closely with your end users. That's a very long-winded way to kind of answer your question.
Thank you very much.
So the way we structure it is you're actually learning from day one. You're using all the tools that the engineers in the industry are using, and you're doing it over and over again. And many of you will be overwhelmed, especially the first few weeks and first month, especially when you get JavaScript, you'll feel like you're about to give up. But you keep doing it over and over again, and suddenly you'll find yourself a few months from now. If you ask our students who went past the first 3 months, you can probably dream about coding in your sleep. And it becomes like long-term memory. It becomes second nature to you. And that's what we're doing. Versus a college program lecturing to you all day, and you're just absorbing 30% of what they're teaching, and you don't spend enough time, actually doing work. And I always joke, we know that we're doing something right. Two things. Where first of all, majority of our students get hired into jobs working on programming languages that we don't teach at Kenzie. So we had a company called Xylo that hired a graduate, and also hired another person who came up from a prominent computer science program, very famous university. I shall not badmouth that university. Started at the same time. Our graduate was like merging code and checking in stuff in the first week, while that computer science graduate, spent 3 months learning how to use GitHub.
Yeah, and Chok, I can definitely attest to. Yeah, going through a boot camp, it does sometimes feel like drinking out of a fire hose. But what I realized is that my biggest fear was that I wouldn't be able to memorize a lot of the stuff that you're required to do for coding. By a show of hands, does anyone feel like they try to memorize things when they're doing coding tutorials and it's just too much? It kind of goes into one ear, out of the other. Okay. And so the reason I'm bringing it up is that what coding bootcamps do, and the way I think most people learn, is actually by doing. And if you think about what it means to be an engineer, right? You're solving problems, but you have Google to help you get to the right answer, right? It's not like you're taking an exam in school where you're trying to memorize before the exam. You have access to Google. And that's why the way Kenzie actually teaches and the way schools teach is that it's very project-based, and they try to explain to you how to solve problems and how to build the muscle of finding the solutions. So it's not just about getting the right answer, it's how you got it, and the approach of how you got it is way more important than just getting the right solution. Chok, with that said, I do want to get to some questions in the chat. And Melanie asked the question, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the community who feel that, right? People feel that if they have either gaps in their working history, or they don't have a computer science degree, or maybe they don't have a degree at all, how does that impact their prospects of getting a job once they get out of Kenzie?
So Kenzie is designed for people like yourself. And that's why our programs are longer than most of what you see out in the market, is because we want to make sure that because you don't have a prior technical background or there are gaps in your employment, we want to make sure that we train you to a level that when we put you in front of an employer in a job interview, you blow past them. And not only that, when you're at your job, you actually know what the hell you're doing. The beauty about the tech industry is that it does not discriminate like many other fields, because of how, like, if you look at the way the economy is shifting now, every company is becoming a tech company. And colleges and universities, the amount of computer science graduates they're producing is nowhere close to meeting where the number of developers that companies need now and over the next few years. So companies, if you know what you're doing, if you're good at what you're doing, companies typically don't look to your past. They only look at what you're able to do today and what is your potential to grow over the next few years. We are very supportive of, like, we have a few students who were formerly incarcerated, and they're starting to get jobs because we believe in second chances, and these companies that we work with are the same. They feel like, I don't care about your past. I just care about what you're able to do today and what you're able to grow into tomorrow. And if you meet that criteria, we're going to hire you.
Yeah, Chok, great answer. Great answer. I want to, there's a few people in the chat who are asking about, like, how do most people in Kenzie, how do they get through the 12 months? I know some of your students do the earn and learn. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how it works with the schedule?
Yeah. So we have a partnership with Kelly Services, which is one of the largest staffing firms in the country. They're an investor in Kenzie, and they happen to run all the Apple Care support for Apple. If your iPhone or your MacBook is broken, you call Apple, you're actually talking to a Kelly Services employee. So we have an exclusive partnership with them where they crafted out a part-time earn and learn program just for Kenzie students that is designed around the Kenzie class schedule. You are required to work at least 24 hours a week while you're on the program. And then the shifts are designed so that it only starts after 3 p.m. Eastern time. So students have time to finish Kenzie and then start working for them on the afternoons, evenings, or weekends. Of course, students who are ahead of the program, if you can also have, because there are thousands of people in the program, you can actually, if you need more, actually take shifts from other people as well. We highly advise that you work enough to make sure it doesn't jeopardize your coursework, because you're doing this so that you have a better future. So, you need to work this enough to be able to support yourself and then focus the rest of the time to prepare for, to build yourself up for a much better job and much better paying career down the road. We also have students who also either find other kinds of jobs after Kenzie class time. But I have to reiterate here is that students, we have some students who, we told them it's full time and they came in and they have to start working during class time. The moment they do that, we always see a very strong correlation. Their grades start going down dramatically. And then after a few days, because this is quite immersive, they find that they're totally lost. They couldn't catch up and they have to drop out of the program. So if you have to work where your hours clash with our class time, my recommendation is don't do it, because you're not going to make it.
Chok, that's a good explanation. And just also to reiterate for people, the earn and learn, you have to, so once you get accepted into Kenzie, it's something you have to apply for. So you still have to go through the interview process with Kelly Services. But what the nice thing is that they carved out the hours to potentially give you that flexibility to be in class and also work. Let's see if there's any other. I have a few questions. Yeah. Go ahead.
So the earn and learn is not guaranteed, but most of our students do get accepted. I do have to point out the caveat. There are like 6 places in the country where it's not covered. Someone mentioned earlier, California is not, New Jersey, the city of Seattle, and a few other places. You need to talk to the admissions advisor to find out if where you live does that cover. Unfortunately, that's not something within our control. It's Apple's policy not to hire people in these regions because of those strict employment laws. So that's something it's what Apple decided, and we have no control over that, unfortunately.
And I'm gonna drop the link for people interested in learning about Kenzie, the Earn and Learn, all that stuff in the chat. I have a bunch of burning questions for Chok, but I'm gonna let you all ask, and then I'll save it for the end. We have about 20 minutes left for the AMA. So anybody else wants to jump in and ask more questions?
Hey,
Anyone?
Chuck, this is Tracy. Can you hear me?
Hey, Tracy.
Hey, Tracy.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I have a question. I work well, let me start off. Right now I'm on my 13th day on Career Karma, and I am presently just making sure I learn my coding and I understand kind of where I want to go right now. But my question kind of boils down to I work a part-time job that starts at 3:30 a.m. and goes to about 9 o'clock a.m. Central Time, and I was just trying to see if, and I have the rest of the day to do whatever I need to do, and I was trying to see if there's any type of workaround that I can make sure I can get into a Kenzie class schedule.
I think usually the class demos start around 9:30ish Eastern time. So if your job, that's the most critical part of the day, where you're actually interacting directly with the instructor. So if you miss that, you're actually missing the most critical part. If there's a way to shift your hours by just a little bit, it's workable. I know we have students that actually do night shifts and they really bust their ass. And there was a guy that works night shift, attends Kenzie, and then during lunchtime goes out and deliver Jimmy John's, and he just got a $70,000 job with a publicly traded company, and he's also very, very smart, very hardworking, and because he's so smart, he finishes his work before everybody, and he just takes a nap on campus. So every time I see him, he's always sleeping. I was like, does this guy ever work? It turns out he's one of our smarter students. So it's doable, but it's going to be very brutal. So you have to figure out, talk to your mission advisor, figure out if you can shift your hours a little bit. It's going to be very brutal for you, but if you can make that work, then all kudos to you. That's going to be an amazing story to tell once you're successful.
Thank you.
I want to give a shout
yes,
out.
Earn and Learn is available in Georgia. One of the questions in there.
Yeah.
I also have to say we are guaranteeing Earn and Learn for the October cohort. We cannot guarantee for January, because Kelly Services wants to see existing students in July and October. Is everyone showing up to work? They want, if everyone quits after 2 weeks, then they're going to stop, discontinue it. So we cannot guarantee Earn and Learn for January. We're working towards it, but we can guarantee for the October cohort. But a lot, whether we will do Earn and Learn in January or not, will depend on how the students in October and July behave themselves.
Thanks for clarifying that, Chok. And there's a gentleman on this call, Delvik, who's actually one of your students, and he's a Career Karma member. Delvik, do you want to weigh in on anything that we discussed tonight? Or share a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, can y'all hear?
Yeah,
we can.
All right, it's pretty dark where I'm at because I'm enjoying the cigar. I just got through taking my final for the Earn and Learn, so it's been a pleasure and a process. And Chok, I want to thank you. You're a wonderful CEO, and I'm a proud member. I spoke to you and I told you I'm happy to see myself as a future alumni of Kenzie. And we talked about what was the things that drew me to Kenzie. Of course, Career Karma had a play in it because I was actually looking at Flatiron because I'm in Houston and they have a location here. So my mindset took me into a place where I can always go on campus if need be and then stay home and do the things I need to do. But hearing from the students in Career Karma that are currently in Kenzie that are 7 months, 8 months in, very much excited as they were when you go back and look at how they were on that 21-day challenge. That's amazing because if you do a year with anybody, like I discussed with Ruben, you have something negative to say. Like, I'm serious. You don't hide that. That's you can't fake that. You have something negative to say after you do a year with somebody. Let me remind you this. I worked a job that was 84 hours a week. So that was half the week. It's 168 hours in a week. So just imagine all those hours that you're going to put in with somebody within a year time frame. You definitely have something to say, be it good or bad. But the students at Kenzie were very much the reason why I chose Kenzie, because their excitement every day. My cohort particularly are very close knitted, and we're like brothers and sisters. Like, we don't live next to each other. We talk every day. We're sitting in the mornings from 8 hours plus, and then we go and do our earn and learn, and then it's back into like a Google Hangout or a Zoom or back in Slack. There's constant communication. So if there was any advice that I could give you, no matter what it is, especially coming from Career Karma, if you connected with somebody, stay connected with them. Check on them periodically. Because the thing about this is, you have to realize somebody in this room right now has $1 billion idea. Let that resonate with you. Somebody in here has $1 billion idea. And so in some form of way or fashion, you can see yourself being somebody to help them with problem solving. You can be an asset to somebody, or they can be an asset to you. Stay connected with the people. You know, I know I'm in this 21 days and connect with 2 people. Man, I went beyond and above. Sometimes I went and got 10 people. Sometimes I went and got 12 people. Sometimes I didn't have time to get 2. So I just got the 2, but I stayed connected with everybody. And then, like, of course, you're going to have your coursework, and you're going to have that, like Chok said, you're going to hit that brick wall. That brick wall is very much needed. And do not be afraid to fail, because you have people around you, right? You have people to help you and pull you up and understand that, hey, I'm not in this situation alone. So with that being said, if I got any reason to convince you to go with any school, come on over to Kenzie. This is where it's at. Let me tell you how deep we are in Kenzie. Kenzie is named after his youngest daughter. Think about that. Look at him laughing. Think about that. How do I know that? Because that's how close we are over there. So would you get that information from any other school? You have to ask that question. I'm not knocking any other school. There might be great and excellent programs about that. One thing I can vouch for was the transparency with Chok, as he shared his work history, how he shared his collegiate history, and he put it all out there for us. He cut no corners, you know, and he's very real. So my ideology is the branch of command is, if the branch of command is the very top is solid, then you can imagine what everybody else up under him is like, because they're a representation of what the head is like. So right here, you have the head of Kenzie. You have me. I'm at the bottom. So you can put that in context for yourself. I'm at the bottom of Kenzie. I'm just a student. I'm not a coach. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a student looking to be alumni. I still have almost 11 months left remaining. And I'm 6 weeks in. And I'm excited about where I'm going. I'm excited about the material I covered. Is this work? Yes, it is work. Become very dedicated. Um, Ask those questions. Google and DuckDuckGo and, you know, all these, you know, coders are going to be your friends. YouTube, the whole nine. So you're going to get a lot out of Kenzie that you probably wouldn't get from your typical learning environment. And like I say, I'm a member of Kenzie. I'm in the project right now. I'm also in the Earn and Learn. I just had my final, so I'm having a celebratory cigar for that. And I'm just basically able to see my goals unfold in front of me, as into where just having a goal and working at it and working at it, working at it. And the vision wasn't becoming clear, but coming along with Kenzie is coming very clear. And all those who are considering Kenzie, or just considering just having somebody become a coder, connect with me. I'm available. My name is my name. I'm a #1 search on Facebook, because there's not going to be another Delric on top of that. So if you just want to add me and connect, man.
Derek, thank you so much. I swear we didn't pay you a single cent for saying that.
Oh, my Cash App is.
What I really want to say is, like, there are a lot of schools that starts with a profit motive, and then they try to build kind of a mission statement around. I've already made my fortune, and I'm living very comfortably. I don't have to work another day again. And for me, you know, like Timur was saying earlier, I'm an immigrant. I came here with nothing, and all I have was because people helped me along the way. So the way I see with Kenzie is me paying it forward. The people that open doors for me now, it's my turn to open doors for people, for like you guys, so that you have equal access. Like you may not be born to the wealthiest families in America. You didn't go to the most prestigious schools. You're an outsider trying to figure out how to get into this tech community. In some very little boys club, it's very hard to penetrate. Timur and Ruben can attest to how tight knit this club is, and it's how kind of white men, Asian guys that are at the top of the pinnacle. As an immigrant coming in, we have to find the back door into everything. So for me, it's giving back is to give you. I'm opening up my entire network to give you all access and give you an unfair advantage over the hundreds and thousands of people who are trying to get in through the front door. But of course, we need to, like the reason we charge the tuition, the ISA and everything is because we need to build a sustainable program. It is very expensive to run Kenzie. You guys have no idea the amount of lawyers we have to hire to be complying with the state. One of our competitor schools has got in trouble with California. The amount of instructors, there's a lot happening behind the scenes that you guys don't see to make Kenzie possible.
Is this better?
Yeah. But for some of our students, every time we're able to realize savings, we pass the savings back to our students. Someone needs to mute. There's a lot of background.
Sorry, I can hear you well though, Chok. What I was gonna say is, can people hear me? Oh, one sec. Let me tell Arthur. Arthur, can you be quiet? What I was gonna say, he's literally sitting here yelling at Ruben across the room. So what I was gonna add to a few things that Chok said and what Delric was saying. So a few months ago, back in July, when we added Kenzie on Career Karma, we're very selective with the schools that we work with because we want to see the students succeed. And the only way Career Karma succeeds is when all of you succeed. And so in the very early days of Kenzie being on Career Karma, there was a lot of people applying to Kenzie, and some people were not hearing back on time. Some people had issues. And so we spoke to Chok, and we were like, Chok, there's some issues with people like not getting emails on time. And he's like, listen, Timur, like, tell them to personally send me a message on Twitter if they get stuck. And then Chok downloaded Career Karma app, and he's now part of the Kenzie squad. So that just goes to show you that he truly does care about the students and your experience. And his team, Erica and Jordan, they're also part of the Kenzie squad. And in case people are getting stuck on things, they have questions. And today, Chok is the only CEO of a bootcamp that's actually part of a squad. So all of you have access to him through that too. And one more thing that I want to add to that, this comes up a lot when people are applying to boot camps. A lot of people don't have amazing credit history, and that's a blocker for a lot of people who are applying to colleges for loans, to like buy a car and whatnot, even with boot camps. And so initially there were a bunch of people who passed all the technicals that got accepted into Kenzie, but they couldn't afford to pay the tuition up front, and they also didn't have a great credit history. And so hearing that feedback from all of you, we also got Chok on the phone, and Chok told us that anyone from Career Karma who doesn't have great credit history but wants to do it and gets accepted, now there is a way for you to do Kenzie using Kenzie Hope. And so, Chok, do you mind explaining to people how Kenzie Hope works, and how does what is your philosophy on giving people opportunities even if they don't have great credit?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So we we want to give access to people like, I think the credit score is very discriminatory. So if you weren't born into a certain family or, you have certain background, chances are the credit score actually counts towards you. We still want to enroll students who are responsible because like, this model only works if we get you a good job and you repay your ISAs. Because if nobody repays the ISAs, this Kenzie will collapse and the next person after you will not get the opportunity that you have. So we want to bring in people who exhibit behavior that you've been responsible in the past. You don't just sign up for 50 credit cards and never pay any of those. But at the same time, I understand, there are people who, you've been responsible all your life and then you have a trip to the ER and suddenly you have a huge medical bill or, because of situations that's outside of your control that your credit has been hurt by it. So for Career Karma folks, we like Timur mentioned, we have a Kenzie Hope program. We lowered the bar, we should say raise the bar, but actually we lowered the requirements on passing the credit for Career Karma students. But if you have bankruptcy if you've done something really bad with your credit, you may still get rejected. But we've moved the bar to a level that most people will qualify. So that we could hopefully, this will give you an opportunity to kind of, turn things around in your life, get a good job, and then hopefully, repay your other loans, including your ISAs when you're successful. So most students coming from Career Karma will, if your credit doesn't hit our regular requirement, there is another check that we do at a different criteria for Career Karma students, and most of the applicants do pass the second time.
Yeah, thanks, Chok, for explaining that. And I think it just goes to show that on this journey, you might get rejected, you might get turned down 100 times, but there's always a path. And so keep pushing and don't stop. You have Career Karma, you have each other, you have people who are ahead of you to help you get there. What Chok mentioned earlier too, and what Diarte is bringing up in the chat is that Kenzie also recently lowered the ISA percentage. So Chok, can you talk a little bit about that, just so people know?
Yeah, so we used to charge 17.5% of your income. And because our alumni are starting to get very good jobs and everyone who graduated and had a job are repaying their ISAs, we have zero delinquency, and that's the kind of students we're going after as well. Because of how responsible they are, we are now able to secure better financing terms for investors, and therefore we drop our ISA from 17.5% to 13%. And that applies to everybody, alumni, current students, future students. Of course, if, and that's why we're also careful as to who we bring on board. Of course, if people stop repaying the ISAs, then our cost of borrowing money to fund your tuition will go up. And then we would then be forced to increase our ISAs in the future as well. So it's essentially a win-win. It's like, if, you come in, you do your part, and if students continue to do well, we will keep passing the savings back to you. And that goes back to we are mission first, but then we still need to run a sustainable program versus other mindsets, which is how do I maximize my profit and make as much money as possible. We also care about, so we also have a rule, like some schools will just take anybody in and grow, they don't care. But like I have some students who attended some programs halfway, I wanted to switch over to Kenzie, and we just unfortunately have to say no to them because we don't want you to leave Kenzie in a worse situation than when you came in. And if you have multiple ISAs, if you have a lot of debt, if your debt to future income ratio is too high, we unfortunately have to deny your ISA because even if you get a high paying job, you'll be so deep into that, you're not going to be able to dig out of it. So for those students, we say, figure a way. I know it's hard, but if you can figure a way to bring your debt level down, come back to us and we'll approve your ISAs. We just want to make sure that every student who comes into Kenzie leave Kenzie in a better financial state than when you first came in.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chok, for that description. Now I'm actually going to ask everyone who's on the call, all 48 of you, for a favor. And so the favor is that there's a number of people starting Kenzie in October by show of hands, is anyone on this call planning on starting Kenzie in October 22nd? Okay, so there's a number of you. I see you, Chris, Chad, Priscilla, Jordan, and one of the most common roadblocks that I see people encounter that keeps them from getting in or not getting in, starting, is actually having a laptop, right? Anybody on here has a problem getting a laptop before they start? And so
I will say this right now. This is a fully Apple house.
Thanks, JRT. And
yes,
so
we highly recommend a Mac.
Yeah. And so we know that laptops are not cheap, right? And that's why Career Karma does a lot of contests. So we can't give everyone a laptop, but there's a contest from time to time. Recently, after speaking to Chok, Chok offered to do like a master class with some of the biggest investors in Silicon Valley and donate all of the proceeds to buy laptops for people who are starting Kenzie. Okay, and so this masterclass is coming up in a few days, and a few hours ago we posted a link on Twitter, and I'm posting this in the chat, promoting the event. So people who sign up for it, those proceeds are going to go to buying laptops for your peers. So this is your way of helping maybe even yourself, but also other people on Career Karma. And so what I would ask all of you to do is to please click on the link and retweet it and support the movement. And if you did enjoy this webinar, please also tweet at Chok, tweet at Kenzie, share things that you learned from tonight's call, okay? So would love for people to support the movement and help other people in Kenzie to get laptops so they can start. Chok, how can people stay in touch with you? What is one of the best ways for them to be connected to you? Besides Career Karma?
Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. My handle is Chokoi, CHOKOOI, the guy with the weird last name. So you can private message me on Twitter. You know, if you have problems with your application, feel free to reach out. You can message me on the Career Karma app as well. I don't sit in front of a desk all day that I can reply instantly. Usually I'm in between meetings with investors and I'm about to get on a plane. And every time I have like that 5 minutes, I tend to go in and see who messaged me, and you know, I kind of reply. So sometimes some people ask me a question and they try to get into like an hour conversation. I just don't have that luxury of time. So I will point you. There was a student, like the plane door was about to close. The flight attendant was like, "Sir, you need to turn airplane mode." And the students just try asking me questions. So sometimes I have to redirect you to like your admissions advisor, who's going to be your buddy that will guide you through the process. But anytime I have free time, I usually, even when investors are talking and they're boring, I tend to look at the app and try to respond to as many people as possible. So we at Kenzie, we really do care. Everyone that comes to Kenzie is treated as family. I really hated my college experience, so I've created a school where my younger self really enjoyed to attend, and that goes back to what Delbert was saying earlier, is that it's really a community and a family here. And the family goes beyond graduation. Like I have alumni who still comes back when we have events, reach out to me. They're also helping with fundraising for laptops and things like that. So it's a community where we're trying to build that throughout your career, we're going to help each other out, so that in the future, when someone is a CTO at a company, they'll hire other Kenzie alumni. Someone who's starting a business can then get business from other Kenzie alumni who now over time, many of you are going to be tech leaders. And, as someone said earlier, some of you could potentially be $1 billion entrepreneur, in the future. And community where we give back. I want to show you all that when you're successful, give back and support others. And I hope that our alumni will follow the same way when they're successful. So that the more we do that, the more we build a very, very strong community and giving access to people who don't have that opportunity.
Awesome. I know Delric is the guy with $1 billion idea, so make sure to connect with him afterwards.
I think
That's
he
the
runs
plan.
the Kenzie Billionaire Club. Or
Yeah,
something.
I'm in the billionaire clubs, man. That's me.
Yep.
So, Chok, I really would like you to be in there. You know, get some of those daily affirmations and help me out. Like not too many people being active in that came after the first meet and greet, but that's cool. So I just saw something about GitLab. I just tweeted it. It was crazy. They got into some trouble with the police here recently.
Oh no.
GitHub, not GitLab.
I do want to say Kenzie is not an easy program. You will have to work very hard. The reason tech jobs pay so well is because it's hard, and that if it's easy, they'll be paying minimum wage. But you have a community around you. You have your instructors who actually do give a shit. Mind my French. So we always tell students the only person that will fail you once you get to Kenzie is yourself. But if you're willing to put in the effort, like our instructors are willing to give you one-on-one, after 3 p.m. and whatever it takes. There's a whole community around you that is rooting for you and want you to succeed. I am highly accessible. I'm, people who knows me in the Kenzie Slack channel. I'm the troublemaker in chief, and our goal is to remove barriers and help you succeed. So it is definitely a family environment. It is, like I said, it's a school that I wish I get to go to with my younger self.
Chok, thank you so much. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have young kids. Let's give Chok a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much, Chok, for coming. And my last question to you. So Kenzie was on the call earlier, and how old is she now?
So those of you who missed it, she said hello to some of people earlier. She just turned 5. Okay. And I was on the live TV interview today. She was watching it live upstairs, and she was so excited. She's like, "Hey, it's Kenzie, it's me."
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome, Chok. And the reason I'm asking you about Kenzie is Kenzie is the reason why you named the school after her. But my question to you is, what is Kenzie gonna do when she turns 18? Is she gonna be doing Kenzie or going to college?
That's the goal. If I'm asking you all to come to Kenzie, I myself have to drink the Kool-Aid and send Kenzie to Kenzie. The reason I named the school after her is because this is a very personal mission for me and my team to really change lives and give people access. And the ultimate vision is that one day when Kenzie turn 18 and comes to Kenzie, this will be a mainstream concept, a program like Kenzie. And hopefully it will be a very, very viable alternative to the traditional 4-year school. And a program where you don't have to get so much student loan that you have to pay up all the way to retirement just to be able to get a high quality higher education.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chok, again. Have a great night, everyone. For those of you who are working and who are studying and you're on this call tonight, give yourself a pat on the back too. So let's break in, everyone. Have a great night. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Priscilla,
Chok,
Lonnie, Evelyn. Have a great night, everyone. Chris, Ray.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.